those slides, but I'll keep talking for a moment. So in the UK, our air ambulances are charity funded and provided. The model we aim for is a doctor paramedic model working on a helicopter or a car. The aim is that we provide the critical care that people would normally get from the A&E department, but at the point of injury or illness, rather than waiting until they get into the hospital. The air ambulances that cover most of the areas or live in are cover both trauma and medical issues, as opposed to the London one, which covers trauma only. And the kind of things that we can provide: sedation, general anaesthesia, and pericardiac arrest surgical procedures such as thoracotomy, eye opening off the chest, or perimortem cesarean sections in the case of cardiac arrest in pregnancy. A bit that you're probably all far more interested in is the blood products. Most of the air ambulances around this area now carry blood products. That's come in over the last 3 to 4 years. However, that's still not the standard of care across the UK. There are still quite a few air ambulances, particularly in the Midlands, that aren't carrying blood products at the moment. And the different blood products vary from the different charity to charity. Just go and move on to the next one. There we go. So we initially started with 2 units of packed red cells, and we now carry 2 units of red cells and 2 forward FFP in each vehicle, so each helicopter or car, in a credo box. It makes it rather complicated in that we now end up with 3 sets of 3 boxes per day, which have a shelf life, as it were, of 48 hours. So you have 6 boxes of blood available to us at any one time. For quality assurance and to make sure that we're storing the boxes correctly, we have a data logger inside each vehicle. Our lovely helicopter, whilst it's very fast, is effectively a flying greenhouse, which means that in summer we can get some quite interesting temperature variations within the aircraft. So we have various ways of mitigating that. But yeah, it's something we have to keep constantly in mind is what's going on in our environment. Unlike hospital practice, where I can rest assured that the air conditioning in the JR is going to get me at least somewhere near 20 degrees most of the time. So our biggest issue is probably finding the right case. Approximately 2,500 to 3,000 calls come into South Central Ambulance Service, which covers the South Central area each day. Of those 3,000, probably less than 1% will require the enhanced critical care skills that we offer. In order to try and pick that out, we have a critical care paramedic who listens in control and tries to pick out the calls that we're going to make a difference at. It's really challenging. Obviously, people who make 999 calls have often just witnessed something incredibly traumatic to them, with often very little warning, and it is often the worst day of their lives or very close to it. And so trying to extract useful information to work out, is this a massive hemorrhage or a relatively small amount of blood, is a real challenge. So I'm just going to take you through a case. This is one of our lovely call handlers. So this is a 999 call comes in. They're taken by non-clinical call takers who work to a carefully pre-arranged script to try and guide people through and get the useful information, not least where the incident actually is. So for this case, it's an 18-year-old male who phone call comes in from a friend that has had multiple stab wounds to the upper abdomen and is described as being pale and sweaty. Obviously, no observations or any other signs that we would normally get at this stage. So I know that not everyone is local to us, so I'm just going to go through where everything is. So down in Bracknell, you can see in the bottom right-hand bit of the picture, call comes into Bicester, which is our control centre up in the north. The stabbing's down in Bracknell, and we on the helicopter are based just to the right of that Didcot in RAF Benson. That short flight would be about 7 to 8 minutes for us to get down there, cruising at about 130 miles an hour. When we get there, we realise that this chap's going to need a massive transfusion, that he is peri-arrest due to catastrophic torso bleeding. Now, we carry our 2+2, and obviously the aim would be to get him to the major trauma centre in Oxford, not the nearest hospitals in either Royal Berks or Wexham Park in Slough. So in order to effect a massive transfusion, we've got our two units of red, 2 units of FFP. We could start that often on scene, and obviously you get through that quite quickly, giving some tranexamic acid as well. But what we can also do is start vectoring in the other cars that we have around on standby, and form a series of a blood relay as we then move the ambulance up the motorway system back to Oxford. So in this case, we have blood relays, and literally there'll be a car at the side of the road with the lights on, and we stop over, a little pit stop, the blood gets put on, and we carry on to the next point, and then carry on to the next point, get more blood, and until we eventually get to the major trauma centre. So the aim of all this is, obviously in hospital, the standard of care would be to give a blood transfusion rather than saline, and we're able to effect that, and hopefully we arrive with less coagulopathy, and we're then able to hopefully improve outcome, although I'm quite willing to admit that the evidence behind that statement is probably slightly lacking. One of the big issues that we have is trying to work out how much blood to give people. Won't surprise anyone here to know that it can be a bit of an inexact science, especially as we don't have access to blood gases or other instruments, so it can be slightly harder. We're then able to restock the blood whilst we're writing up our notes, as inevitably incidents like this you don't get a chance to write much at the time. And then one bit that's very different probably from hospital practice is that we have a standard of debriefing every job before we move on to the next, so we can see what went well, what didn't go well, and what we can learn for next time. So we're a charity, so thank you to all our supporters who enable us to provide the care that we do. It really is appreciated, and particularly thanks to the blood bank staff at the JR and more widely NHSBT and others for helping us to provide the standard of care to wherever the patient needs the help rather than waiting until they get to the hospital.